Hello everybody, my name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today we will be diving into how Karen Swallow Prior has broken her silence on Karengate. And we're also going to be talking about how SBC Voices, a liberal Southern Baptist blog, has been exposed as being highly complicit in the corruption going on in the Southern Baptist Convention, specifically as it relates to Karengate. So the first where we left off, in the last video, I talked about how Karen Swallow Prior was involved in a conspiracy, is at the center of a conspiracy to blackmail Tom Buck because Tom Buck knew of something incriminating to Willie Rice's presidential campaign for the Southern Baptist Convention. Willie Rice knew that, Willie Rice had a deacon that Tom Buck knew about who had sex with a high schooler while he was 27 and married. So Willie Rice was contacted to about that by Tom Buck. However, they wanted to keep Tom Buck silent on this so it would not upset Willie Rice's presidential ambitions while he had them. Willie Rice has since dropped out of the Southern Baptist Convention. And Willie Rice also lied about the circumstances prior to dropping out, so that was kind of big as well. So what we have here is a classic blackmail to keep Tom Buck silent, and it didn't quite work. Tom Buck did not necessarily keep silent. He was contacted to and attacked online for the blackmail attempts, so he did fight back. And it's still ongoing. Now, no one's actually followed through on the blackmail, and I don't think they really will because I don't think the full context will support what the out of context could be used to weaponize against Tom Buck. So I think the out of context is stronger than the in context, and I think they're going to want to keep the attacks out of context based off the rough draft that his wife wrote in 2018. The story goes that Tom Buck and Jennifer Buck gave Karen Swallow Prior the rough draft because she's an English professor, so she should know about helping them edit, and it never came to fruition that editing the rough draft to make it a publishable final copy. So that never came into fruition. So where we leave off 4 years later is that this rough draft, as it characterizes the early struggles in their marriages, has already been used by someone like David Baumgartner, a man of zero integrity, a very young man, kind of my age, to be weaponized against Tom Buck. Because David Baumgartner, let's face it, his article was about doctrine. It was about doctrinal complaints about Tom Buck. So anyway, that's the recap. Watch the last video to get the full version. That's the 1 minute version that really doesn't do the story justice. So watch the 20 minutes video that I did explaining this whole story. So where we did pick up from there is that we got some more breaking news, and part of that breaking news comes from Protestia because they published their articles. I thought their articles would come sooner, but they apparently got the receipts. They got a recording of a phone call between Tom Buck, Jay Adkins, and Todd Benkirk, in which, this is part of Tom Buck's investigation about who leaked these documents, who had these documents, and stuff like that. It is an 11-minute recording in which Tom Buck records Jay Adkins and Todd Benkirk lying. Basically, they were blatantly lying about the circumstances. It's 11 minutes, and they get caught in multiple lies throughout the 11 minutes. Just for some context as to who Jay Adkins and Tom Benkirk are, or Todd Benkirk. Todd Benkirk is number 2 listed on this website of SBC Voices. This is their website. He's number 2. Dave Miller is typically the head honcho. Also, remember they got Dwight McKissick at this publication, and way down here is Jay Adkins, who's also at SBC Voices. So 2 of those people that I just mentioned were on this phone call, and they lied to Tom Buck about these sources, and they did talk to Karen Swallow Prior. Protestia goes so far as to say that this shows that Karen Swallow Prior was the leaker. I don't necessarily think that it does. But again, if we're going to apply the standard of reasonable doubt, what is the alternative narrative that she was the only one who had a copy, and then obviously she leaked it at one point in time. So in a sense, there is a broken chain of custody that is her responsibility. And it's very likely that she was the one who leaked it. And nonetheless, she is also covering up for the people who did leak it. I think that is the minimum of what's going on here. So that's where the story has picked up. And the attacks on Karen Swallow Prior have justifiably intensified. And Dave Miller, who's also of SBC Voices, head honcho, took to the Twitter sphere to defend Karen Swallow Prior on the April the 21st. I believe in the character and integrity of Karen Swallow Prior. I do not believe in the accusations lodged against her. I believe it's time people stopped attacking her. Leave Karen alone. I think more of us believe Karen Swallow Prior than the accusers. I just thought it was time I said it out loud. So Karen Swallow Prior says, I really do thank you, but that is after she said, thank you, Dave. That means a lot. I don't think anyone is attacking me now who hasn't done so or believed ill of me before. My defense is in the truth that those concerned know full well. And again, I just this is it gets really ridiculous. If you read the comments, the description of events doesn't leave any reasonable room for KSP not to have leaked the documents that I can see. Do you see something I'm missing, or are you disputing the description of events? And he's like, yes, I do. I believe in people making accusations against Karen. They are false. Not interested in engaging or discussing their false accusations. Have given enough time to their nonsense. It's just nuts. I like Pertessi. It's not like there isn't audio, which is factually true. And you just got to point out that the people with Ukraine flags are the people that are super liberal. There's a reason for that. It's because they're NPCs. I just want to point that out. Like, if you don't think that supporting Ukraine is like a proxy for something, it totally is. Just to look at Karen Swallow Prior, she doesn't really reply to this a lot either. And she spends a lot of time on Twitter, but this is really one of the only interactions she has on Twitter, even somewhat addressing this. So that's really what's going on here. Is they're not going to really address the issue head on. And if you look at Dave Miller, I don't exactly know. He hasn't really done a whole lot of he hasn't really addressed the issue all that much. So he acts like he's spent a bunch of time addressing the issue, but he really hasn't. And of course, he's already in the Bart Barber camp. So there's nothing really surprising here. There's really what is the reasonable doubt? What is the innocent explanation for Karen Swallow Prior? And if she is that innocent, why isn't she helping out why isn't she helping out a man and his wife from the accusations that have been levied against them by David Baumgartner for, first of all, weaponizing the rough draft? And why isn't she concerned? Because she's awfully silent on the issue, except when she's defending or thanking someone for defending her own reputation, because she is so above the Twitter. She's so above her audience that she does not need to address these concerns. These people, you will know them by their fruit, and their fruit is rotten. Their fruit is just garbage tasting and pretty much not a fruit, more like a vegetable. So anyway, that's really all I got to say about that. This is just a quick update. And just to keep following the story, also subscribe to Evangelical Dark Web and check out that RSS feed. Subscribe to the RSS feed as well at evangelicaldarkweb.org. And if you really like Evangelical Dark Web, you can become a paid subscriber at evangelicaldarkweb.org/join. It's a Patreon-like system. Let me know what you think about what I think, and I will catch you on the next day.